The first hive ship died in 30 minutes. The entire human fleet concentrated their fire on it, launching everything they had. Missiles streaked through space in waves. Mass drivers fired solid metal slugs that punched through organic armor. Nuclear mines detonated against its hull. The creature ship tried to fight back, but it was alone and overwhelmed. When it finally died, Admiral Kwan did not celebrate. He simply gave the next order. Second target, move. The human fleet turned as one and raced toward the second hive ship. But the swarm had learned. The remaining 2 hive ships were returning, trying to reunite. If they succeeded, the humans would face 2 massive ships at once. They are adapting, Dr. Hana observed from her station. The hive mind is learning from their losses. Good, Kwan replied. So are we, Captain Yuna. Take your destroyer and the corvettes. Delay the 3rd hive ship. Do not let it join the 2nd one. Understood, Admiral, Yuna responded. Time to play bait again. Her destroyer and 4 small corvettes broke away from the main fleet. They were damaged, low on ammunition, and exhausted. Against a fresh hive ship, they had no chance of winning. But they did not need to win. They just needed to buy time. Yuna's ships flew directly at the 3rd hive ship, weapons firing constantly. The hive ship turned to face them, its massive weapons charging. It saw 5 small ships and thought them easy prey. Come on, you ugly thing, Yuna whispered. Chase us. Get angry. Forget about your sibling. Just focus on us. The hive ship fired. Yuna's destroyer rolled hard, barely avoiding the energy beam. The corvettes scattered, each one flying in different directions. The hive ship, frustrated, tried to target all of them at once. Meanwhile, the main fleet reached the 2nd hive ship. This time, the fight was harder. The hive ship had seen what happened to its sibling. It knew the humans were dangerous. It fought with desperate fury. Captain Sora's cruiser took a direct hit from an energy beam. The ship's front shields collapsed. Hull plating melted. Crew compartments opened to space. Damage report, Sora demanded. Forward sections destroyed, Captain, her tactical officer reported. We have lost 63 crew members. Main weapons offline. We are venting atmosphere. Can we still fly? Yes, Captain. Then we keep fighting, Sora said firmly. Angle us so the damaged sections are away from the enemy. Use our remaining weapons. Her crew worked with mechanical efficiency. They sealed bulkheads to stop the atmosphere loss. They rerouted power to working weapons. They kept fighting because that was what humans did. Lieutenant Taiho sat at his weapons station, his ammunition counter showing only 15% remaining. He made each shot count. Every missile had to hit. Every mass driver round had to penetrate. Taiho, this is the Admiral. Kwan's voice came over his communicator. I need you to do something difficult. Sir? Our boarding teams are depleted. The remaining swarm warriors are too numerous. I need you to target the hive ship's weapon chambers from inside. Taiho understood immediately. You want me to board the ship and sabotage it from within? Yes, take a team. Plant charges on the weapon systems. Disable them so we can get close without being vaporized. Understood, Admiral. Taiho replied calmly, even though his heart was racing. I will need 5 volunteers. You have 12, Kwan said. Everyone on your deck volunteered. Taiho selected his team and equipped them with explosives and weapons. They boarded a pod and launched toward the hive ship. The pod drilled through the organic armor and the team entered the creature's interior. Inside, they found themselves in a nightmare landscape of pulsing tissue and flowing fluids. Swarm warriors immediately attacked. Taiho's team fought back with everything they had. Bullets, blades, and fire, keep moving, Taiho ordered. We find the weapon chambers or we die trying. They pushed deeper into the hive ship, leaving a trail of dead swarm warriors behind them. Taiho's ammunition ran out. He switched to his blade, cutting through warriors with mechanical precision. His team fought beside him, never stopping, never retreating. They found the first weapon chamber. It was massive, filled with organic processors that generated the energy beams. Taiho placed charges around the chamber's main power nodes. Detonating in 30 seconds, he announced. Everyone out. They ran back through the passages, the swarm pursuing them. The charges exploded, destroying the weapon chamber. The hive ship shuddered. One of its main weapons went dark. Again, Taiho said, breathing hard. Find the next one. Meanwhile, Captain Yuna was running out of options. Her destroyer had taken multiple hits. 2 of her corvettes were destroyed. The 3rd hive ship was still chasing them, still firing, still trying to kill them. Captain, we cannot take another hit, her tactical officer warned. Shields are at 5%. Hull integrity is failing. Yuna looked at her tactical display and made a decision. All remaining ships, listen carefully. We are going to do something stupid. Captain, her officer asked nervously. We are going to ram it. Silence on the bridge. Then her helmsman spoke up. Course plotted, Captain. Ramming speed ready. Good, Yuna said. Evacuate all non-essential sections. Everyone to the rear of the ship. When we hit, I want to make sure some of us survive to tell the story. The destroyer accelerated directly at the hive ship. The massive creature ship fired everything it had, but Yuna's pilot was too good. The destroyer weaved between the energy beams, taking damage but never stopping. 10 seconds to impact, the helmsman announced. It has been an honor serving with you all, Yuna said calmly. The destroyer struck the hive ship at tremendous speed. Metal and organic matter collided. The front half of the destroyer crumpled like paper, but the momentum carried it forward, deep into the hive ship's body. The explosion from the destroyer's reactor core tore through the creature's internal systems. Yuna woke up in the emergency pod with half her bridge crew. They had been ejected automatically when the ship's computer detected the collision. She looked out the viewport and saw the third hive ship listing, badly damaged but still alive. Still breathing, she said with satisfaction. That means we still fight. Back at the second hive ship, Taiho's team had destroyed 3 weapon chambers. The hive ship was weakening. Admiral Quan saw his opportunity. All ships close assault, he ordered. Get under its weapons range and tear it apart. The human ships moved in close, closer than any sane species would dare. They scraped against the hive ship's hull, their weapons firing at point-blank range. The creature could not target them without hitting itself. Sergeant Hyun led another boarding team into the hive ship, fighting toward its control node. His team was exhausted, wounded, and low on ammunition. But they kept moving. They had a mission. They found the control node and placed their remaining explosives around it. As they prepared to retreat, a massive swarm warrior blocked their path. It was larger than any they had seen before, covered in thick armor plating. Go, Hyun ordered his team. I will delay it. Sergeant, you cannot fight that thing alone, one soldier protested. I have been a soldier for 15 years, Hyun replied. I have fought on a dozen worlds. I have survived situations that should have killed me. Today I make sure you all survive. Now go. That is an order. The team retreated. Hyun faced the warrior alone. He had 1 magazine of ammunition left and his blade. The warrior charged. Hyun emptied his weapon into the creature. It slowed but did not stop. He drew his blade and met the warrior's charge. They fought in the narrow passage, blade against claws. The warrior was stronger and had natural weapons. But Hyun had experience and the knowledge that he was buying time for his team to escape. The charges detonated. The control node exploded. The second hive ship died. Hyun felt the shudder through the walls. His team had made it. He smiled. The warrior's claws caught him across the chest. Hyun fell, his blood floating in the zero gravity. He looked up at the warrior, ready for death. But the creature was dying too. Without the hive mind to control it, it simply stopped functioning. Got you too, Hyun whispered and closed his eyes. Admiral Quan watched the second hive ship die. Only one remained. The third one, damaged by Captain Yuna's sacrifice. His fleet was in tatters. Only 5 ships were still combat capable. Hundreds of his crew were dead or wounded, but the mission was not complete. Sir, we are receiving a signal, his communications officer said. It is the third hive ship. It is trying to escape. Let it go, one of his captains suggested. We have done enough. Quan shook his head slowly. No, we came here to solve a problem. If we let it escape, it will return with more ships. It will attack the Altheans again. It will attack other species. We end this here. Admiral, we barely have weapons left, another captain protested. Then we use what we have, Quan replied. He pressed a button on his command chair. All ships, this is Admiral Quan. We have one more target, one more hive ship. We are damaged. We are tired. We have lost many friends today, but we are still humans. We are still the species that climb to the top of Earth's food chain. We are still the apex predators. We finish what we start. He paused, then continued. Activate Protocol Omega. Release the Sol Protocol. Show the swarm why Earth is a Class 12 death world. Throughout the fleet, hatches opened. Small probes launched toward the third hive ship. Each probe contained something the galaxy had never weaponized before. Earth's biosphere, bacteria, viruses, fungi. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Althean home system. What they saw would have made most civilized species turn around and flee. The Velkari swarm filled the space around the third planet like a living cloud. Billions of creatures, each the size of a human fist, swarmed in coordinated patterns. At the center of the mass floated 3 massive hive ships. Each one was the size of a small moon, their surfaces covered in organic armor that pulsed with sickly green light. Jiho watched from his monitoring station on an Althean command ship, safely behind the defense perimeter. His sensors showed the human fleet approaching, and his heart sank. 12 ships against billions of swarm creatures and 3 hive ships. It was suicide. "The humans are not retreating," he reported to his superiors, his voice filled with disbelief. "Perhaps their sensors are malfunctioning," his commander suggested hopefully, but the human sensors worked perfectly. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Kwan studied the tactical display with calm interest. He saw the swarm density, the hive ship positions, the fleeing Althean vessels trying to evacuate civilians. He saw everything, and his expression never changed. "Captain Yuna, take your destroyer and the corvette wing to the left flank," he ordered. "Draw their attention. Captain Sora, your cruiser will advance with the flagship. All ships load kinetic weapons and prepare for close combat." In her destroyer, Captain Yuna smiled. Close combat. The words made her bridge crew sit up straighter. This was what they trained for. This was what humans did best. "Minho, give me full power to engines and weapons," Yuna ordered her chief engineer. "Captain, that will put us at 140% capacity," Minho replied from engineering. "The ship is not designed for that." "Then redesign it while we fight," Yuna said cheerfully. "Also play the music." Minho grinned and hit a switch. Suddenly, every external speaker on the human ships activated. Sound does not travel in space, but the swarm creatures on the outer edge of their formation had sensors that picked up vibrations. What they heard made the hive mind pause in confusion. Deep drums, war drums, the sound of human voices raised in battle cries. The roar of predators from Earth's history, lions, tigers, bears. And underneath it all, a steady rhythm like a heartbeat growing faster and faster. Jiho's sensors picked up the broadcast. "What are they doing?" he whispered. "Are they trying to communicate?" "No," his commander said, understanding dawning in his eyes. "They are hunting. This is what predators do before they attack." The swarm responded to the human advance by sending a wave of creatures toward them. Millions of the insect-like beings flew through space. Their bodies somehow adapted to survive in the void. They moved in a cloud that would engulf the human ships and strip them to metal frames in minutes. Lieutenant Taiho watched them come. His fingers flew over the weapons controls, calculating trajectories and impact points. He had trained for this his entire adult life. Every simulation, every drill, every test had prepared him for this moment. "Firing," he announced calmly. The human ships did not use energy beams like most civilized species. They used missiles. Hundreds of them launched in the first salvo, each one packed with explosives and metal fragments. The missiles streaked into the swarm cloud and detonated. The explosions tore through the swarm like fire through dry grass. Thousands of creatures died in each blast, their bodies torn apart by shrapnel moving at supersonic speeds. The swarm that had never faced kinetic weapons suddenly learned why humans still used them. But the swarm adapted quickly. The hive mind directed its creatures to spread out, to avoid clustering where one missile could kill thousands. The cloud became thinner but wider, trying to surround the human ships. "They learn fast," Admiral Kwan observed. "Good, so do we. All ships switch to close-range weapons. Show them our teeth." The human ships plunged into the swarm cloud. Now the real fighting began. Automated guns mounted on every human ship opened fire, shooting solid metal bullets at incredible speeds. Each ship became a storm of metal and fire, cutting through the swarm like a blade. Jiho watched in horror and fascination. The human ships were taking damage. Swarm creatures crashed into their hulls, trying to eat through the armor. But the humans did not retreat. They pressed forward, their weapons never stopping. Dr. Hana studied the swarm samples that the automated collectors gathered from the debris. She examined the creatures under her microscope, looking for weaknesses. What she found made her smile. "They evolved in low gravity," she reported to Admiral Kwan. "Their bodies cannot handle high-G maneuvers. If we force them into tight turns at high speed, they will die from the acceleration alone. Excellent work, Doctor, Quan replied. All ships begin evasive pattern delta. Make them chase us. The human ship suddenly changed direction, performing turns that would crush most species under the G-forces. Human pilots wore special suits that squeezed their bodies, keeping blood flowing to their brains. Even with the suits, the maneuvers hurt. But humans had evolved to endure pain. The swarm creatures tried to follow and died by thousands. Their bodies simply could not handle the forces. The hive mind pulled them back, confused. Nothing had ever used movement itself as a weapon before, but the 3 hive ships remained, and they were the real threat. Each one began to glow brighter, charging massive organic weapons. Energy built up in chambers deep inside their bodies. When they fired, the beams would vaporize anything they touched. Captain Sora saw the danger. Her cruiser was directly in the firing line of one hive ship. Her crew waited for the order to retreat. Instead, she gave different orders. Angle the ship 30 degrees. All power to forward shields. When they fire, we push through the beam and get close enough to board them. Her crew stared at her in shock. Board them, Captain? Her second officer asked. That is not possible. No one boards in modern warfare. Humans do, Sora replied calmly. The hive ship fired. A beam of pure energy struck the cruiser's shields. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed throughout the vessel. The shields held for 3 seconds, then 4, then 5. The cruiser pushed forward through the beam like a fish swimming upstream. When they broke through, the cruiser was close enough to the hive ship to see the details of its organic surface. Captain Sora smiled. Launch boarding pods, she ordered. Metal pods shot from the cruiser, each one carrying 20 human soldiers in armor. The pods crashed into the hive ship's surface and drilled through the organic armor. Inside each pod, soldiers checked their weapons. Sergeant Hyun led one team. He was a veteran of 15 years with scars on his face and arms. He had fought on colony worlds and space stations. He had trained in every environment Earth could create. Now he would fight inside an alien creature larger than any building on Earth. Remember your training, he told his team as the pod finished drilling. These things are fast and numerous, but they have never fought humans in close quarters. We are ambush predators. We are tool users. And we do not stop fighting until we are dead. The pod doors blew open. The team poured into the hive ship's interior, which was dark and wet and filled with organic passages. Swarm creatures immediately attacked. Hyun's weapon roared. It was a simple design, a tube that used controlled explosions to shoot metal bullets. But it worked perfectly. Swarm creatures fell by dozens. When his bullets ran out, he switched to his second weapon, a blade made of carbon-forged steel, sharpened to a molecular edge. The other teams reported similar success. The swarm had never fought an enemy that was comfortable in dark, confined spaces. But humans had evolved in caves. Humans hunted at night. Humans understood close combat in a way the swarm could not. Lieutenant Nari flew her fighter through the chaos, her small craft dodging between swarm creatures and debris. She was one of the best pilots in the fleet, able to perform maneuvers that would black out other species. Her fighter twisted and turned, drawing swarm creatures away from damaged human ships. This is Nari to all fighters, she transmitted. Formation Theta. Let us show them how Earth's pilots fly. The human fighters began a coordinated dance, weaving through the swarm in patterns that seemed random, but were carefully calculated. They led clusters of creatures into each other, causing collisions. They used the swarm's own mass against it. Jiho watched all of this from his monitoring station. He could not believe what he was seeing. The humans were not just fighting. They were hunting. Every move had a purpose. Every attack was coordinated. They fought like a pack of predators that had evolved together over millions of years. Sir, he reported to his commander, his voice shaking, the humans are winning. Admiral Quan stood on his bridge and watched the battle unfold. The first hive ship was faltering, its interior compromised by the boarding teams. The swarm creatures were confused, trying to fight an enemy they did not understand. He took a sip of his coffee and spoke quietly. Phase 2. Target the second hive ship. All ships concentrate fire. Show them that we do not just wound our prey. We finish what we start. The emergency beacon screamed across the void of space, carrying a message that reeked of desperation. Ambassador Thelvar stood in the council chamber, his forearms trembling as he watched the holographic display. 3 worlds, 3 entire colonies gone in just 5 days. The Velkari swarm had appeared from the darkness between stars, and nothing could stop them. "We must try the Korthan Empire again," one council member suggested, his voice weak with fear. Thelvar shook his head slowly. They refused, as did the Nexian Federation, the Polmar Alliance, and the Centered Worlds. "Every civilization we contacted has the same answer. The swarm is too dangerous. They will not risk their fleets." The council chamber fell silent except for the constant ping of the warning systems. Another city on the 4th colony world had gone dark. Billions of Altheans were dying while the galaxy's mighty empires watched from safe distances. "There is one species we have not contacted," a young officer named Jiho said from his station. His voice barely rose above a whisper. "The humans." Every being in the chamber turned to stare at him. Jiho's pale skin turned even paler under their gaze. "The Deathworlders?" Thelvar asked. "You suggest we contact the species from the planet that tried to kill them every single day?" "They have a military," Jiho said, pulling up data files on his screen. "A real one. Not a defense force or a patrol fleet. An actual war machine." Thelvar moved closer to examine the files. What he saw made his blood run cold. Humans had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, after a survey ship discovered their planet by accident. The planet was immediately classified as Deathworld, Class 12. Nothing above Class 8 was supposed to develop intelligent life. The survey team's report described a world of extreme weather, deadly predators, toxic plants, and diseases that could kill in hours. Yet humans had not just survived. They had thrived. They had climbed to the top of their planet's food chain, and then invented weapons that could end all life on their world. They ate both plants and meat. They healed from injuries that would kill most species. They laughed at danger and thought nothing of jumping from aircraft for recreation. "Their military doctrine is classified," Jiho continued, his voice gaining strength. "But there are rumors. Stories from species who watched their war games. They say humans train for combat from childhood. They say human ships carry weapons banned by 17 galactic conventions. They say humans never ever retreat." "They sound like barbarians," another council member protested. "They sound like survivors," Thelvar corrected quietly. He looked at the display showing his dying worlds. "Send the message. Ask for their help." The message traveled through quantum relays, crossing light years in minutes. It reached the human sector and was immediately forwarded to their military command. On the bridge of the Human Defense Fleet flagship, Admiral Quan received the transmission. He was a tall man with short black hair going gray at the temples. His face showed no emotion as he read the Althean plea for help. Around him, the bridge crew worked in efficient silence. These were not the peaceful explorers that most species associated with civilization. These were soldiers. "Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from the Althean home system," the communications officer reported. "The swarm has reached their core worlds." Quan nodded slowly. He pulled up a tactical display showing the Althean territory. Red markers indicated swarm presence. They were spreading like a virus, consuming everything in their path. "Sir, the Altheans are offering payment. Technology, resources, territory," another officer said. "Tell them we do not require payment," Quan replied. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Someone asked for help. That is enough." He pressed a button on his command chair. Throughout the fleet, klaxons began to sound. Ships that had been on patrol status suddenly shifted to combat readiness. Crews that had been running drills now ran to battle stations. In the weapons bays, technicians began loading ammunition that most species considered too primitive and too brutal for modern warfare. Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of her destroyer, the HSS Relentless. She was younger than most ship commanders, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her crew knew her reputation. She had never lost a fight, though her ship always needed repairs afterward. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced over the ship's speakers. "We have received a distress call from the Althean Coalition. A hostile force called the Velkari Swarm is attacking their worlds. We are going to stop them. Check your gear, say your prayers if you have any, and remember what we are." In the weapons bay, Lieutenant Taiho supervised the loading of missiles. These were not the elegant energy weapons that most species used. These were kinetic warheads packed with explosives. Simple, brutal, and effective. Taiho smiled as he watched them slide into their tubes. Humans had learned long ago that sometimes the old ways worked best. Dr. Hana worked in the science lab. studying what little data existed about the swarm. She was a xenobiologist trained to understand alien life. What she saw in the reports worried her. The swarm was not just aggressive. It was hungry. It consumed everything organic, stripping planets to bare rock. They are like locusts, she muttered to herself. But locusts can be stopped. Everything has a weakness. Admiral Kwan assembled his fleet commanders in a virtual meeting. 12 ships, from massive battleships to small fast-attack corvettes. Not a large force by galactic standards. But every captain in that meeting had the same look in their eyes. They were predators being called to hunt. The Altheans are afraid, Kwan told them. They have seen their fleets destroyed. They have watched their worlds die. They called us because every other species refused to help. They called us because they have no other choice. Do they know what they have asked for? Captain Sora asked. She commanded the heavy cruiser HSS Valkyrie. No, Kwan said simply. They think we are just another species with ships and weapons. They do not understand what it means to be from Earth. They do not know that we evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. They do not know that we are persistence hunters who chase prey until it drops from exhaustion. They do not know that when we protect something, we do it with everything we have. He looked at each captain in turn. We are going to show them. We are going to show the galaxy. And we are going to show the swarm what happens when you threaten someone under human protection. The fleet began to move. 12 ships accelerated toward the jump point that would take them to Althean space. In his quarters, Admiral Kwan poured himself a cup of coffee. The bitter earth beverage was strong enough to hospitalize most aliens. He drank it black and smiled. Time to go hunting, he said to the empty room. Across the galaxy, the Valkyrie swarm continued its feast. Billions of insect-like creatures swarmed over Althean colonies, consuming everything. The hive mind that controlled them felt no fear. It had destroyed thousands of species over millions of years. It knew only hunger and growth. It had never encountered humans before. That was about to change. Inside the first hive ship, Sergeant Hyun and his team pushed deeper into the organic passages. The walls pulsed with life and strange fluids dripped from the ceiling. The air was thick with chemicals that would poison most species. But human soldiers had chemical filters in their helmets and training that prepared them for hostile environments. Movement ahead, one soldier reported. Multiple contacts. Looks like warriors, not the small ones. Hyun nodded. The swarm had different types of creatures. The small ones filled space and overwhelmed enemies with numbers, but the warriors were different. Each one was the size of a human, with razor-sharp claws and armor plating. Switch to armor-piercing rounds, Hyun ordered, and someone bring up the fire. A soldier moved forward carrying a weapon that made even the swarm pause. It was a flamethrower, a device that shot burning liquid. Fire weapons were banned by 16 galactic conventions because they were considered too cruel. But humans had never signed those treaties. The swarm warriors charged. Hyun's team opened fire, their bullets punching through the organic armor. The creatures fell, but more came. Always more. Then the flamethrower ignited. Fire filled the passage and the warriors screamed. They had never felt burning before. The swarm's hive mind recoiled in shock and pain. Keep moving, Hyun commanded. We need to find the node. Every hive ship has a control center. If we destroy it, the ship dies. They fought through passage after passage. The swarm threw everything at them. Warriors, acid-spitting drones, even walls that tried to close and crush the humans. But the team kept moving forward. They were humans, and humans did not stop. On the cruiser's bridge, Captain Sora monitored the boarding team's progress. She also watched as Admiral Kwan's flagship engaged the second hive ship. The massive vessel was turning to face the human ships, its weapons charging. That hive ship is going to fire on the Admiral, her tactical officer warned. Then we make sure it never gets the chance, Sora replied. Helm, take us between the Admiral and that ship. All power to shields. We are going to be a wall. The cruiser moved into position just as the hive ship fired. The energy beam struck the cruiser's shields with incredible force. The entire ship shuddered. Lights flickered. Systems failed across multiple decks. In engineering, Minho worked frantically to keep the shields operational. Coolant systems were overheating. Power relays were burning out. The ship was taking damage faster than he could repair it. Captain, shields at 40%, he reported. 30%. 20%. Captain, we cannot hold this much longer. Hold it anyway, Sora ordered calmly. The Admiral needs time. Behind the cruiser, Admiral Kwan's flagship charged its main weapon. It was a mass driver, a weapon so simple it seemed primitive. But simplicity had its advantages. The weapon used magnetic fields to accelerate a solid metal slug to a significant fraction of light speed. When it hit, the kinetic energy alone would be devastating. "Target locked," Lieutenant Tejo reported. "Firing!" the slug launched. It crossed the distance to the hive ship in seconds and struck near the base of one of its weapon chambers. The impact released energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. The hive ship's organic armor shattered. Internal fluids vented into space. The creature that was the ship screamed in pain. "Again," Kwan ordered. The second shot struck the same location. The hive ship began to list to one side, its systems failing. The swarm creatures around it became disorganized, their coordination breaking down. "That is the difference between us and them," Kwan said to his bridge crew. "They evolved to swarm and overwhelm. We evolved to hunt big prey. We learned to bring down creatures larger than ourselves. A hive ship is just another mammoth." Dr. Hana worked in her lab studying the swarm samples with increasing excitement. She had found something important. The swarm creatures were connected through chemical signals. The hive mind controlled them using pheromones and bioelectric pulses. If she could disrupt those signals, the swarm would become confused. "Admiral, I have something," she reported. "The swarm uses chemical communication. I can synthesize a compound that will interfere with their signals. We can broadcast it through our hull plating." "How long to produce enough?" Kwan asked. "Give me 20 minutes, you have 10. "Work faster," Hana smiled. Working under pressure was a very human trait. She began synthesizing the compound, her hands moving quickly over the controls. On his monitoring station, Jiho watched another group of human ships engage a cluster of swarm creatures. What he saw made him question everything he knew about warfare. A human medical officer named Suji was treating wounded Althean refugees on an evacuation ship. The ship had been damaged and could not escape the battle zone. Swarm creatures had breached the hull and were killing everyone they found. Suji held a medical scanner in one hand and a weapon in the other. She checked an injured Althean civilian, gave him an injection for the pain, then turned and shot 3 swarm creatures that tried to attack. Then she went back to treating the patient. "Doctor, you should retreat to safety," the injured Althean begged. "When my patient is stable," Suji replied calmly, giving another injection while shooting another swarm creature. "Humans do not abandon those under our care." She worked for 20 minutes like that, treating patients and fighting off attacks. When the evacuation ship's engines finally came online and it escaped, Suji had saved 43 lives and killed 62 swarm creatures. She reported to her superior that she had successfully completed her medical duties. She did not mention the fighting. To her, that was just part of the job. Jiho reported this to his commander, who sat in silence for a long moment. "What kind of species trains their healers to be warriors?" the commander finally asked. "A species that evolved on a planet where everything tried to kill them," Jiho replied quietly. "A species that learned you must be able to both heal and harm to survive." Inside the first hive ship, Sergeant Hyun's team finally found the control node. It was a massive chamber filled with organic processors and neural tissue. This was the brain of the hive ship, the center of its consciousness. "Plant the charges," Hyun ordered. "We are leaving this thing dead." They placed explosive charges around the chamber, then retreated. The swarm threw everything at them, trying to stop the humans from escaping. Warriors, drones, even the ship itself tried to seal the passages. But humans were escape artists. They had evolved to get out of caves, off cliffs, away from predators. They were good at finding exits. Hyun's team fought their way back to their boarding pod, leaving destruction behind them. The charges detonated. The control node exploded. The first hive ship died. Its systems shut down. Its weapons went dark. The billions of creatures it controlled became disorganized, flying in random patterns. "First hive ship is dead," Captain Sora reported to Admiral Kwan. "Boarding teams returning to ships." "Excellent work," Kwan replied. "Now let us kill the second one." The second hive ship was already badly damaged from the mass driver shots. Admiral Kwan ordered all ships to concentrate their fire on it. Missiles, mass drivers, and automated guns all focused on one target. The swarm's hive mind finally understood something important. These humans were not like other species. They did not fight to push enemies away. They fought to kill. They hunted to extinction. The hive mind made a decision. It pulled the third hive ship back away from the battle. It would retreat and call for reinforcements. The humans were too dangerous to face with only 3 ships. But Admiral Quan saw the third hive ship trying to escape. He smiled coldly. "Lieutenant Nari, take your fighter wing and slow that hive ship down. Do not let it reach the jump point." Nari acknowledged the order and led her fighters in a suicide run. They dove toward the massive hive ship, their weapons firing constantly. They were tiny compared to the ship, like birds attacking an elephant. But they were fast and brave and skilled. The hive ship tried to swat them away, but Nari's fighters were too quick. They targeted the ship's propulsion organs, the biological engines that pushed it through space. Each hit slowed the ship down. "Come on," Nari whispered to herself as she flew. "Just a little more. Keep it here. Keep it in the trap." Because she knew something the swarm did not. This was not a battle. This was a hunt. And humans were very good at driving prey into ambushes. Commander Doyen's stealth ship had been waiting silently at the edge of the system. His ship was coated in materials that absorbed sensor beams. To the swarm, it was invisible. He had spent the entire battle waiting for this moment. "All ships, this is Shadow," he transmitted on a secure channel. "The prey is coming to us. Prepare the surprise." The third hive ship fled toward what it thought was empty space. Instead, it found itself surrounded by mines. Hundreds of them, placed carefully by Doyen's ship over the past hour. Each mine contained a nuclear warhead, another weapon most civilized species considered too barbaric to use. Humans had no such concerns. They used whatever worked. "Detonate," Doyen ordered. The mines exploded in a carefully timed sequence. Nuclear fire engulfed the hive ship, its organic armor burned. Its systems failed. It died screaming into the void. Jiho watched the third hive ship die and felt something he had never felt before when watching warfare. Satisfaction. These creatures had killed billions of his people, and the humans had destroyed them in hours. The Althean Council chamber was silent as they watched the battle footage. 3 hive ships destroyed. The swarm that had killed billions of their people was scattered and disorganized. And the human fleet had done it in just 6 hours. Ambassador Thelvar tried to speak several times before his voice worked properly. "How?" he finally managed to ask. "How did they do this?" Jiho brought up tactical analyses on the main display. "They used coordination we have never seen before. Every ship worked together like parts of one organism. They did not fight to survive. They fought to hunt. They were always hurting the swarm, pushing it where they wanted it to go. Like predators driving prey into a trap," Thelvar said quietly, understanding dawning. "Exactly like that," Jiho confirmed. "Because that is what they are. Humans are pack hunters. On Earth, they hunted animals much larger and stronger than themselves by working together. They did the same thing here, just on a bigger scale." On the human flagship, Admiral Quan reviewed the battle reports. 3 hive ships destroyed, but at a cost. 2 of his ships were heavily damaged. Casualties were mounting. The wounded filled the medical bays. Yet his crew worked without complaint, repairing damage and preparing for the next fight. "Admiral, we are receiving a communication from the Althean Council," his communications officer reported. "They want to thank us and offer compensation." Quan nodded. "Put them through." Ambassador Thelvar appeared on the screen. His forearms were folded in a gesture of respect. "Admiral Quan, on behalf of the Althean people, I thank you. You have saved our civilization. We are prepared to offer you anything. Technology, territory, resources. Name your price." "We require no payment," Quan replied. "You called for help. That is enough." Thelvar stared at him in confusion. "But you risked everything. Your ships are damaged. Your people died. You must want something." "We want you to survive," Quan said simply. "That is why we came." Before Thelvar could respond, new alarms began sounding throughout both fleets. Dr. Hana rushed onto the flagship's bridge, her face pale. "Admiral, we have a problem," she said urgently. "I have been studying the swarm's communication patterns. Before the third hive ship died, it sent a message into deep space. A call for help." Quan's expression did not change, but everyone on the bridge felt the tension increase. "Show me," he ordered. Dr. Hana brought up sensor readings on the main display. There at the edge of the system, space was rippling. Something massive was coming through from faster-than-light travel. "How many?" Quan asked. 3 more hive ships, Dr. Hana replied. "They are answering the distress call. They will arrive in 4 hours." The bridge fell silent. The Althean transmission showed Thelvar's face going even paler. 3 hive ships had nearly destroyed his civilization. The humans had stopped them, but at a cost. Now 3 more were coming. "Admiral, we must retreat," Thelvar said urgently. "You have done enough. No one could ask for more. Please, save yourselves." Quan looked at the tactical display, studying the incoming hive ships. His crew watched him, waiting for orders. They knew they could retreat. No one would blame them. They had already accomplished the impossible. "No," Quan said quietly. "We came here to solve a problem. 3 hive ships were just the beginning. If we leave now, they will come back. They will keep coming until they have consumed everything. We end this threat here and now." "Admiral, we cannot fight 3 fresh hive ships with our damaged fleet," Captain Sora protested. "It is suicide." "Then we will make sure our deaths accomplish something," Quan replied calmly. "But I do not plan to die today. I plan to show the swarm what happens when predators stop holding back. Prepare the fleet. We are going hunting." Captain Yuna stood on her destroyer's bridge and smiled. Her ship was battered and scarred, but it still flew. Her weapons still worked. Her crew still fought. "You heard the Admiral," she announced to her crew. "We have more prey coming. Time to show them what Deathworlders can do." Across the fleet, similar scenes played out. Crews that should have been exhausted instead felt energized. They were humans. They had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day. They knew how to fight when tired. They knew how to push beyond their limits. In engineering, Minho worked miracles. He routed power from non-essential systems. He bypassed burned-out relays. He got weapon systems back online that should have taken days to repair. Human engineering was designed for field repairs because humans expected to fix things while under fire. Lieutenant Taiho checked his weapons and discovered they had used 70% of their ammunition. Most commanders would consider that a critical shortage. Taiho just recalculated his firing solutions to make each shot count more. Sergeant Hyun and his boarding teams prepared new equipment. They had learned from the first fight. They knew what worked against the swarm now: fire, explosives, and blades, the old weapons of Earth brought to space. Lieutenant Nari prepared her fighter, ignoring the stress fractures in the hull and the damaged engine. Her craft would fly. That was enough. She had trained for this her entire life, fighting outnumbered, outgunned, and exhausted. It was what humans did best. Admiral Quan gathered his commanders for a strategy meeting. His plan was simple and brutal. "We cannot win a straight fight," he told them, "so we will not fight straight. We will use what we know about the swarm against them. They think in terms of overwhelming force. They have never faced an enemy that uses deception and misdirection." He brought up a tactical display showing the Althean system. "The swarm will expect us to defend the planets. So we will not be at the planets when they arrive. We will be waiting in the asteroid belt." "An ambush," Captain Sora said, understanding. "We hide among the asteroids and strike when they pass." "More than that," Quan corrected. "We will make them think the asteroids are dangerous. We will detonate some of our remaining mines among them. The swarm will think the entire belt is a minefield. They will slow down to navigate carefully, and that is when we strike." Commander Doyun nodded approvingly. "We turn their caution against them." "Very clever. But even with an ambush, we are still outnumbered," another captain pointed out. "Yes," Quan agreed, "which is why we will separate them. We will make them think we are in different locations. When they split up to chase us, we will destroy them one at a time." Dr. Hana spoke up. "Admiral, I have completed the compound that disrupts their chemical communication. If we can deploy it during the battle, the swarm creatures will become confused. They will not coordinate as well." "Excellent," Quan said. "We will use that. Anything else?" Silence for a moment, then Captain Yuna spoke. "Admiral, may I suggest we broadcast again? The music seemed to affect them last time. Perhaps we can use sound as a weapon." Quan nodded slowly. "An interesting thought. Yes, prepare your war songs. Make them loud. Make them frightening. Make the swarm understand that they are not the hunters anymore. They are the prey." The fleet moved into position among the asteroids. Human ships powered down most systems to avoid detection. They waited in silence like predators waiting for prey to walk into the trap. Jiho watched from his monitoring station on the Althean command ship. The human fleet had disappeared from his sensors. He knew they were there, hiding among the rocks, but he could not find them. "They are very good at hiding," his commander observed. "They are ambush predators," Jiho replied. "On Earth, humans hunted by hiding and surprising their prey. They are doing the same thing here. The 3 new hive ships arrived in the system. They were even larger than the first 3, their organic forms pulsing with power. They sensed the remains of their destroyed siblings and roared in rage. The swarm wanted revenge. They moved toward the inner planets where the Altheans lived. As they approached the asteroid belt, Admiral Quan gave the signal. Mines detonated throughout the belt. Not near the hive ships, but scattered randomly, making the entire area seem dangerous. The hive ships slowed down, their sensors probing the asteroids carefully. They took the bait, Quan said with satisfaction. Now we split them up. All ships begin broadcasting on different frequencies. Make them think we are in multiple locations. The human ships activated their transmitters. Each one broadcast signals that looked like different fleets. To the swarm sensors, it appeared that humans were everywhere. The hive ships did exactly what Quan predicted. They split up to chase what they thought were separate targets. Each hive ship went in a different direction. Perfect, Quan said. Now we show them the oldest human hunting strategy. We brought down mammoths with this technique. We will bring down their hive ships too. He looked at his crew. All ships concentrate on the closest target. We kill it quickly, then move to the next. We hunt them one at a time. This is what humans do. This is what we have always done. We see a threat to those we protect, and we do not stop until that threat is gone. The human fleet moved as one, all ships converging on the nearest hive ship. The creature ship suddenly found itself facing the entire human fleet. It tried to call its siblings back, but the chemical disruptor that Dr. Hana created was already being broadcast. The swarm's coordination broke down. Fire everything, Admiral Quan ordered. Show them no mercy. Show them what happens when the Deathworlders stop playing nice.